I think one of the reasons why we're seeing a growing number of young people have an anxious approach to life or an anxious personality is because they don't know how valuable they are, and they don't know that their value is conditional. Now, in this video, I want to share with you 5 ways that you can make yourself more valuable to the young people that you are working with instead of making yourself important. And you may say, well, how does that impact the young people? When you recognize your value, you become more valuable to the people you work with. And as you recognize your value, you reflect the value that you see in other people. So the first thing is you want to take a genuine interest. Taking a genuine interest in people will never go out of style. When you take a genuine interest and you ask them questions, you say, simply tell me more, or wow, I hadn't thought of it about that way. I hadn't thought of it that way. Tell me more about that. Or, what do you think about that? Now you're getting the person to look a little closer into what they're saying, look a little closer into what their interests are. And this is really great for kids because I cannot tell you how many adults made a difference in my life because they took an interest in me. Okay. Number 2, you don't want to focus on what you're going to say next. Just follow them in the conversation. So just relax and listen. Relax and listen. So take an interest, relax and listen, and don't have an agenda. Now if you do have a certain goal or an outcome that you're trying to produce with that young person, then so be it. And that should be clear from the get. But if you're just getting to know them and you want to find out what their interests are, maybe you're at a family function or at a community event and you're building a rapport with this young person, finding out what their values are is really, exciting. Another thing is, have some fun questions that you can ask them. So number 3, have some fun questions, lighthearted questions you can ask them. Tell me about one of your happiest days recently, or tell me about something that really surprised you. What were 2 things that happened and 1 thing that didn't? I got that from the book Whole Brain Child by Dr. Tina Payne Bryson and Dr. Dan Siegel, and I really like that question. What's 2 things that happened today and 1 thing that didn't? Even asking the question of, who did you talk to at school that you rarely speak to? And that, when you're taking a deeper level, a deeper approach, it's like, oh, simple question, but it's like, well, now the child's thinking, well, who do I speak to usually? And who could I talk to a little bit more often? Now I'm just throwing out questions, fun questions. Who's someone you sat next to today? Who's someone you invited to sit next to you? And if you are speaking to a young person and they really value social connections, or they want to, strengthen their ability to have more social connections, those type of questions are really powerful. Okay. Point number 4, you're going with the flow at this point. You're asking questions. Point number 4 is to simply be present. Simply be present and listen for what excites the child. Listen for what motivates them. Listen for what may cause a sense of fear. And when you are listening to them talk, you say, I hear a sense of, am I listening correct? Am I hearing correctly? And that helps you to reflect their value back to them. Okay? Being valuable to people is not about trying to make a place in their lives. And I'm learning about this more and more as I go into this fall season, and I'm thinking about the last 15 years of my career, and really the first 15 after graduate school. And in full transparency, I lost one of my dearest friends, mentor, Robert Ruth, and he lived such a full and wonderful life. And I met him later in his life. He was vibrant. He helped me to grow professionally, personally, he took such a profound interest in, you know, who I am as a person as he heard me developing my ideas. Now, this is something I want to highlight for point number 5. You want to connect with the child on ideas, okay? Don't connect with the child on gossip. Don't connect with them on slang and latest trends. I know some people are gonna be like, well, why not? Because can you just be the grown person who's mature and grounded? You know, everybody can't be young. Everybody doesn't need to be young. We can be youthful, and that's a gift. But there are so many people who connect with young people on foolishness. They connect with them on gossip. They connect with them on trends. You know, what's the latest trend on social media, and they're trying to do the dance and be a part of a challenge. That is a sign of immaturity. That is a sign that you need to grow up. Instead of connecting with them on that, connect with them on ideas, because what my mentor did was I paid attention to him. He was my supervisor at one point when I was a tutor. So I was a before and after school teacher, and I was a tutor. So I was at the elementary school I was working at. I was there from 7:15 to 6:15. So I was there all day, you know. And he showed me how to take an interest in children's learning in a way that really sparked my own interest in helping children to learn and measure their growth. And, you know, I was teaching children how to read. And so he literally put a binder in my hand with a framework and strategies for teaching children how to read. And the children who credit me for helping them learn how to read or teaching them, they don't know maybe that it was him who gave me the framework, who gave me the strategies, you know. And now we have a literacy issue here in the United States where many fourth graders are below reading level, and phonics is essential, you know. So being able to identify the phonological sounds, doing syllabication, which is breaking words down by syllable, you know, being able to recognize patterns. Those were things that he shared with me 14 years ago, okay? And I graduated from grad school 15 years ago, to give you a little context. So point number 5, when we talk about being valuable, you know, when we recognize our value, we're more valuable to people. And we could talk about that for the rest of our lives, because I think as we grow, and the work of growth is always available to the individual, as we grow, we recognize the ways that we have conditioned our value on places, people, things, where we've been blind to our own value. We've betrayed ourselves because we didn't recognize the essence and the meaning of who we are, you know. So that's something that as humans and spiritual beings having a human experience, we can all contribute to that conversation and contribute to that learning. When we talk about being valuable to people, it's not about being important to them. It's not about being able to predict what they're going to say. I met someone recently, and, you know, he was trying to predict what I was going to say or predict what I was thinking, and I didn't like that. And we're both in the counseling fields, but I recognize as a counselor, I don't do that. I'll ask while I'm listening, which is what I offer to you. You know, I hear a sense of, I'm hearing the emotion of, is that true? Am I hearing you correctly? I always got to check in, because I'm not always right. I'm wrong at least half the time. So, you know, I check in. And when we say to a young person, hey, am I getting this right about you? You know, do you like artichokes in your salad? Or, you know, do you like the young person says, oh, they care about, they heard me. And we are here to be seen. We are here to be loved. You know, my mentor, going back to Robert, he was the one who really began to press upon me this idea of, you can't make yourself indispensable to somebody, because people can disregard you in whatever way they think they're doing it at any time. And when he was in his 80s, working with children and teaching them how to read and offering resources to them, he was let go of his position. I remember being so surprised to hear this. And I was upset too, because I was just like, well, gosh, how do you do that to people? You know, because I'm very sensitive to taking care of people in a good way. You know, people should feel loved and taken care of, you know, when they're in our care, you know, in our care. And so when he said that, you know, it made me think about, well, how do I treat people? How do I show up? And I was already struggling with the codependency issue, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was struggling with, you know, trying to have a place in people's lives. And that comes from, you know, just not knowing your value unconditionally, and then trying to fit in, you know, trying to, you know, be a part of someone's life. And maybe it's temporary, maybe it's for a season, maybe it's a reason, maybe it's a lifetime. But being able to recognize you don't need to make room for yourself in somebody's house. You don't have to carve out a den or a hole, or, you know, this is my chair right here. I'm always going to sit here when I come over. We don't have to do that. And many times we don't know there is an alternative. If you have a relationship that is mutually nourishing, mutually beneficial, you don't need to have a place in their lives. You are in their lives. So when we talk about making ourselves valuable to people, it's really about offering value. It's not about making ourselves important. There are so many people I haven't been able to connect to because they're so important. They're so busy, you know, and when you see them, they look right past you. I know you know some people like that as well, but they just look right past you, or they think they know you and they look right through you. And it's like, this doesn't feel good. We're all valuable. We all have value. And the way that we make ourselves valuable to people is to offer that. Is it a guarantee that they will keep us in their lives? No. But the truth is, we are all worthy of being kept. And we are first kept by the Most High. I hope that this offers some insight to you on ways that you can make yourself valuable to young people. I bless you. I want the best for you, and I'll see you again soon.